So basically for about the last 5 days, I've been playing a lot of Civilization 7, except for that one day when Sony decided to just crap out completely and not let people sign in. Aside from that one day though, it's been nothing but Civ 7, and I've been torn about how difficult this launch would be for them. Number one, every Civilization launch is usually not very good, and they're actually stuck between a rock and a hard place. If they change things up too much, and they change that formula that I think they're well known for, then it's not really Civilization anymore. But if they don't change anything, and all they really do is change the roster, then they might as well be just a sports game. So I can understand there being this idea of wanting to change things, but not too drastically, and yet they don't want it to feel too much like the last game, yet it's gotta feel enough like the last game for fans of the series to be interested in it. And with 7 entries now, it has changed a lot over the years, but it still has that same core gameplay, just with a lot of different little tweaks, new mechanics, and different features to really expand upon a lot of the game to just create more depth. And I think that that is what they sort of did with this one, but it still feels empty. And we'll get into my thoughts and why I say it feels a little empty and why it may not be a great pickup right now, or maybe you might just be excited enough to pick it up like I did. Anyway, we'll discuss all of that, but first, please hit that like and subscribe button, help the channel grow, it means the world to me. So anyway, like I said, I did pay the $100 to play it early, and yes, there was a point in time when I was screaming at my PlayStation thinking, I spent $100 to play this game early, and now Sony's gonna be down for 19 hours? Needless to say, Friday night I was not very happy, but when I actually was able to play the game and really collect my thoughts on it, a couple of things popped out. The first one being the UI. A lot of people have complained about it and said like the game is sort of hard to follow, and it is a little bit. There are new features to it and little mechanics here and there, little tweaks. Like I said, there's nothing major that's changed about it, but there are aspects that if you don't pay attention to, or if you're not fully explained certain features or mechanics, it really can affect your gameplay, and maybe just to the fact that it's a little bit more hollow, or that you have more options but you're not really aware of it. And I do think the game needs to do a better job of explaining that, but at the same time I think that that's all going to happen with patches, and that's going to happen over time. It's not something I'm really that worried about right now, because again, if you enjoy the game and you enjoy that core experience, well, it's there. But if you've just been playing a lot of Civ 6 Game of the Year Edition, you're going to open this one and say, where is the game? Like, this just seems messy. There's not nearly as much content as I just had with Civilization 6. So why did I even pre-order this and pay extra money for it? And that's a valid question. And if you're not like a super fan of the game, it's one you should be asking, because it's one that I would ask. For some of us who put hundreds of hours into it, it's worth it to get in early just to get a hold of some of those new features and just to be able to kind of master the game a little bit more than what we've already had, even though we know that the game is going to change completely by the time the second DLC comes out, and I'm sure there will be. See, just like the game itself has a formula, so does the releases of these games, and usually they have a release, multiple patches, a big DLC, and then multiple patches and another large DLC. And by the time we get that second DLC, the game looks nothing like it did at launch. But some of those features and some of the new aspects of the game are still there. They just need to be learned again. And so for some of us, we want to hit the ground running. And honestly, if you have hundreds of hours into Civilization 6, I think it's worth it to move on to try something new. At least that was my experience. And yeah, there is a lot of new things about the game that I think still kind of needs to be ironed out. And one of them is the eras. So in the old games, it was ancient, Renaissance, and modern. And now it's antiquity, exploration, and modern. And so this means at the beginning of a new era, you'll have different civilizations that you can choose from. And it doesn't seem to make that big of a difference. Like, as big of a difference as they made it seem like. And so I think that some of that needs to be ironed out, and maybe just in my experience it wasn't that way. Maybe in other situations it's different. But for me, it didn't seem to be that much of a jump. But think of a game like Humankind, if you're familiar with this type of game. I think that's essentially where they got the idea. They just need to implement it a little bit better, I believe. But one thing that does make a huge impact in the game is natural disasters and different illnesses that happen. There'll be plagues that spread across your cities, and you have options on how to deal with the crisis. And if you choose wrong, you can cause a revolt. Even if you choose right, the people can still revolt and be very angry about what happened, even though you really didn't have much to do with it and you were just trying to do the best with what you had. But at the same time, we also have natural disasters that cause the same problems. And these can lead to less revolts, but more just the destruction of a city or the halting of the progress. And that matters so much when you've got other nations looking down at you. Like, they want to take a piece of what you built, and you're busy trying to like rebuild your cities, or you're trying to deal with a revolt, or the fact that people are out of line and going off into like a cult, and even though there's enemies at the gates, they're more interested in mysticism than they are in militarism. So these same kind of things happen, but they are kind of far and few between and not as consequential as you would think they would be. Meaning you can sort of just forget some of the stuff. Like, there was one of my cities that got a plague, and I sort of just left it alone. And within, like, I don't know, a few turns, it was back to being normal. I just had to go in, repair a few things. The people stopped revolting. Everything was fine. That sort of thing happened quite a bit. There was a flood that happened, and the same thing. The flood was sort of annoying. It held me back by like maybe 2 or 3 turns in total, but didn't really do that much damage and didn't really slow my progress that much. Now, like I said, many of the same core gameplays of Civilization are here. Form settlements or cities, resource management, collect as much as you can, explore, and then deal with your other nations or enemies, however you want to look at it. And you're still able to do those same 4 things that you can do to strategize. And that means go with science, go with culture, go with military, or economics. And being a powerhouse in one usually leads to being a powerhouse in another, or all 4 of them. But that is how you eventually win, is by completing a few tasks that need to be done that really cement your place in the greatest economy or the greatest culture or the greatest military in the world. And I think like that in itself, just that race, that experience, that's worth the gameplay. But you can get that same gameplay in Civilization 6. And in fact, you can get even more when you get like the Game of the Year edition. So is a game really worth it to buy it at launch? I don't think for the average consumer, no. I really don't think so. If you love Civilization though, you play a lot of it, maybe you want something a little bit different. You want to experience what the game's like, being able to like deal with a lot of the natural disasters, or like I said, the changing or the options you have at the new era for different civilization options, or being able to level up your leader, which was something that I believe was in Civilization 6, but I don't remember it. I don't know, you have to let me know if any of you guys have played it. Could you level up your leader like you can in this one? So in this one, you are given points, and you can actually make your leader stronger in certain areas or in all of them. And I just think that is pretty cool. But aside from like small little things like that, no, it's not really worth it. Not right now, especially when we know that this game is going to be bigger and better in the future and potentially cheaper. When you think about all of those things, it's not going to give it such a great score and not be a game that I think you're going to want to run out and buy. But again, if you like this style of game, if you like Civilization in general, you're not going to be disappointed or feel like the game is just beyond repair, but you are going to see the structure of what is a really good game. Here's the bones of what can be an amazingly cool game in maybe 6 months or so. But that's sort of your choice if you want to pay extra to sort of play a demo version of the game. I don't know, for me it was worth it and I really did enjoy it. Ultimately, if I had to give it a score, I would give it a 7 out of 10 right now, but I do think this is a game that could easily be a 9 out of 10. Just with enough patches, enough DLC, the Game of the Year edition sort of experience will be a 9 out of 10 type experience. But that's just my thoughts on Civilization 7, and I do think that these will be evolving thoughts, and I will do another review, especially on when the new DLC drops, and talking about some of the changes from the base game that we got right now and what the DLC brings. Again, they haven't even announced it, but we all know it's going to happen. Anyway, thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. Hopefully this helps in some way. If it does or doesn't, leave a comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know what your thoughts are on Civilization. Are you excited to check it out? And on what console? Because this is the first Civilization game that is dropped on all the consoles and PC at the same time, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, let me know your thoughts down below. Please like, subscribe, do all that stuff. I love the hell out of each and every one of you guys. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.